Hello. Come to see Tony. That's the one. Thank you very
Tony
much.
Rogers and his family have been supplying fish to fish and chip shops in the area for over 100 years.
I'm following a 19th century guidebook to Britain's rails, and I assume the railways made a big difference to the availability of fish.
They made a tremendous difference. Prior to the rail, people living in inland towns and cities could only eat freshwater fish from caught in the local ponds and rivers and streams. It was the onset of the railways that allowed all this population, this inland population, to the first time experience sea fish.
The railway was a revolution. For the first time, it meant that fish could be caught, transported and sold in a city like Manchester, all in the space of a few hours. Soon the popular dish, fish and chips, was born, although it's not clear where.
It's a source of great rivalry between where the origins were in the East End of London or Ashton-under-Lyne, Mossley. Mr. Lees in Moston claims to be the originator of bringing over French fries and the chip potatoes. Now, as a northerner, I state my claim.
Well, all this talk of food is making me hungry. Rock salmon was a favourite in the 19th century, but at Caroline Thompson's chip shop, the menu's always changing.
Hello. Hiya.
Hello. Hi, Caroline. Fine, thanks. You get over
Oh,
there.
thank you very much indeed. Lovely.
Thanks, Caroline.
You're Caroline, aren't you?
I am.
Tony's been telling me all about you. Come and join us.
I will.
I'm eating traditional cod. Are tastes changing very much?
I think cod is our best seller, although we do such a variety of fish.
Any new developments?
Yes, there are actually. We've got these. They're called ocean pearls, which is a mussel, deep fried.
In batter?
In batter, yes. Mm-hmm. And then this is scampi, which you know what scampi is.
Very hot.
Everything has to be hot, but if it's dipped in the chilli, it's nice.
Nice, very
Yes,
nice.
yes.
And should I be worried about all these calories?
You just have to say no to the cream cake afterwards.
In Bradshaw's time, the railways transformed our cities, but they also changed the countryside and farming too. For the first time, fresh food could travel all over the country. Farms that once supplied only their local markets suddenly became national enterprises. At Sealfield Farm, Peter Gott's family has lived through those changes.
Peter. Hello. I've got my wellies on.
How'd you do?
Very nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Get him ahead! Yeah.
They've been farming the local breed of Herdwick sheep for hundreds of years. Today, Peter works with shepherd Ian Grisdale.
Fantastic work, Ian. Fantastic. What did that take? About a minute to round them up?
Something like that, yeah. When you've got youth on your side, it helps.
I mean, at one time, the railways must have been the only way of getting produce from a place like this to the cities.
Well, it was either that or horse and cart, and that's a bit slow. But yeah, railways opened up the countryside. Even markets were owned by railway companies. We have a market in Barrow-in-Furness where they build nuclear submarines. And the old market was owned by the railway company. And of course, coming down the west coast of Cumbria, you would bring all that abundance of food to the population to sell. And I think railways have changed farming considerably.
As cities grew, the railways satisfied the mass demand for fresh food. Farms became bigger and highly specialised. By the mid-20th century, land was being farmed on an industrial scale. Now Peter's farm, and many like it, are part of something called the slow food movement. They're going back to a way of farming that's smaller scale and based on local traditions.
These are a designer sheep that belong in the Lake District. Nowhere else in the country will you find this type and style of sheep. And what's important is that the flavour's different. And don't forget, you are what you eat, but where they're eating old-fashioned herbage in the fells. They hop from crag to crag, probably the nearest thing you'd get to a mountain goat. And of course, they've created that grazed environment in the Lake District. If it wasn't for the animals that we farm, we would end up with gorse and bushes and you wouldn't be able to get on top of the mountains.
Wow, I had never thought of that.
If you think about it, farming today and the grazed environment, the lush green patchwork of fields that we see has been brought about by the farmers who are grazing that environment.
Yeah, what we townies think of as being the natural look of the countryside is actually the product of people like you.
That's right.
And animals like that.
That's right, yeah.
These days, running a small farm doesn't pay well. Peter has had to diversify to keep afloat.
I can also see quite a variety of livestock, haven't you?
Yeah, when you're on a small acreage like I am, you've got to do a bit of everything. A few poultry, a bit of eggs, obviously Herdwick sheep, wild boar, pigs, bacon, ham. You know, it's literally a mixture of everything. And of course, the cycle of farming means that we spread the pig muck on the land and that grows the grass and that feeds the sheep. And so it's all interwoven in a sort of a very small mixed farm.
And then you're doing all your own production as well. You're producing your sausages and your pies.
Absolutely. We do about 30 types of sausage, but of course the traditional Cumberland is our speciality. We do a Moroccan type, which is ideal for the Herdwick.
The Victorians wouldn't have had Moroccan sausages available at their local market. 21st century farmers may be turning the clock back, but modern tastes are for international flavours.
Peter, this is a first for me.
Right.
I've never been involved in sausage making before.
Well, it's something that's been going on for lots of years. Salamis have been made for 2,000 years, 3,000 years. And what we're going to do is essentially the minced up part of the lamb, which is here. We've used the shoulder and some of the flank. And all I'm going to do is mix that in. We've got obviously paprika in there. We've got some salt and spices. And then we're going to stuff it out into the intestine of the lamb.
The sausage meat gets packed into the sheep's intestine. At a whopping 45 feet long, if I get this right, I should be able to produce over 150 sausages.
You know those bin liners that you have to open up, or
That's
those
right.
plastic bags in supermarkets? It's exactly the same problem, isn't it?
Presumably it doesn't take you half an hour every time.
No, probably a little bit of water, and we'll just see if we can get it to relax itself a little bit. So you want to have one hand on the handle and one hand on the sausage, and just feed it out as you turn. So it's a dual movement.
Right.
That's it.
Whoa, look at that! How long do I go on for?
Just keep going.
Yeah.
And just keep your hand as fast as you do that. It comes out
Yeah, I
faster.
see. So I can just
That's
lay it down there,
Yeah,
then,
that's
can
it.
I? Yeah.
Maybe just hold it back a little to get your sausage full, so that
I see,
you're not
yes.
getting any gaps.
Yes.
Because you become an experienced sausage maker when that happens.
Yeah.
And then just keep twining.
Do you know, I never realised it could be that simple.
Farming, like so many of the industries that I visited on these journeys, is moving away from the mass production of a previous era. These days, farmers like Peter are reviving the skills and traditions of their Victorian ancestors to create luxury products for their modern customers.
My first stop will be in the Clyde Valley because I'm intrigued by something in Bradshaw's. The line now passes through a district of country rich in mineral wealth, beautiful scenery, celebrated far and near as the Orchard of Scotland and famous for its fine fruit.
In Bradshaw's time, the Clyde Valley was lush with orchards. Each season, trains rushed the freshly picked fruit to markets all over the country. But today, many of the orchards are neglected and overgrown. Here at Carluke, one small group of people is trying to revive this centuries-old industry.
Morning, Tom.
Morning, Michael.
Lovely weather for it.
Yes, beautiful.
How are you?
Another fine day.
Tom Cleland's family have managed the trees here for more than 4 generations.
May I ask you what your own earliest memory is of the fruit picking? Because it must still have been going strong when you were a lad.
Yeah, it's, this road that I live in, everybody made their living out of growing fruit. In the summer they grew gooseberries, strawberries, blackcurrants, and then in the autumn it was mainly plums, but also apples and pears. I remember being put in the back of a cart and the tractor driving the strawberries up to a railway station that's now closed at Lesmahago, and we loaded the strawberries onto the railway carriage and they were bound for Manchester.
So the railways were fundamental to this business.
Oh, yes.
The cooler weather here meant that fruit was still ripening after the season had finished further south. Picking was organised around the clock, so that the fruit could be put on the early freight trains to Birmingham, Manchester and London.
I didn't know much about the Orchard of Scotland. Does it still justify the name?
No, not in the same way that it did. It kind of reached its heyday round about the start of the 20th century, when there would be about 1,000 acres of orchards around here and about another 700 acres of soft fruit on the other side of the valley and down that way.
So what are you down to now?
Less than 100 acres of top fruit. I've got about 150 plum trees, some apple and some pear. I need to plant up my orchard again. I need to look after it. And I'm doing that because it's part of my heritage. It's what I grew up with.
Tom is now caring for the fruit trees, along with other local growers like Duncan Arthur.
Morning. So, I caught you pressing some apples.
We're at the start of it, in a way.
Is it apple juice you make or cider?
Which would you like? We can do both.
Well, obviously,
you might have to come back in a year for the cider.
Oh well, I'll have some apple juice today. So you're a neighbour of Tom, and
Yes.
You're a grower here as well.
Yes, I am indeed.
Twice a week, Tom, Duncan and the other growers harvest the fruit and produce apple juice that they sell locally.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's a very efficient mechanism, isn't it?
It is, it works nicely. I'm not sure I'd want to do it all day.
No, but one pressing will give us about 15 or 20 litres of apple juice.
I'll just let that run through now, I think.
Yes.
Now, can I taste it?
Absolutely, why not? Okay. Now, at this point, it's a wee bit cloudy, but it's as Mother Nature intended.
It's exquisite. It's quite different from apple juice in the supermarket. It's really, I don't know, tangy and fresh. And well done, Duncan. You're onto something there.
Thank you very much.
It's uplifting to see the orchards being tended once more. They perpetuate traditional varieties of apples and pears that Bradshaw might have eaten. In Bradshaw's era, towns across the country cried out to be linked to the railway network, hungry for economic benefit. New lines like this spread like wildfire.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome to the Compilation.
Thank you very much. It's a fantastic railway line. Was it built for tourism, do you think?
No, original reason for this line was to convey the products of the slate quarrying town of Blenheim to the coast. So that was the real reason for the line. But of course, as the years have emerged and industry has changed, then tourism very much is now our main feature.
North Clanrose Station opened in 1863. The line carried slate, and the mountains became accessible to rail passengers for the first time.
North Clanrose Station is beautifully situated, and it was obviously built on a scale, a gateway to welcome tourists and visitors. Now looking a little bit like faded splendour.
I've come to see what attracted all the visitors. Bradshaw writes, in the vicinity is Trevreux, in a hollow of the Carnarvonshire hills, where there are some salubrious mineral waters. The Trevreux Springs were a local secret until the 19th century. When the railway arrived, the town blossomed into a fully fledged spa with a bathhouse and pump room. The bathhouse is no more, but of course the famous waters flow still.
Hello, Hilary.
Hello, Michael.
Hilary Rogers
climb up the hill.
is a guide
isn't
at the
it?
spa.
So these are the spa waters of Trevreux, is that right?
They certainly are.
And Bradshaw, my 19th century guide, he says they're very salubrious waters.
And efficacious.
And why is that? What is it that they contain?
Iron.
Iron.
And it's in solution. It was called Trevreux chalybeate. I think he may have mentioned chalybeate waters, which is iron in solution.
Does it give you energy?
Oh, of course it does.
And how do you best take it then? Do you ingest it or do you bathe in it?
No, you take it. They used to bathe in it. In Bradshaw's times, they bathed in it.
It was said that these iron-rich waters provided a natural cure for anemia. Demand rocketed. And taking advantage of the new branch line, the Spa created one of the earliest mail order businesses that made use of rail.
They could get it in the post as well. And here's one of the very old boxes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
With the bottles.
Oh, that's
And
fantastic.
it has Trevriel wells on it.
And I presume sent off on the train.
Yes, they'd be collected from here. That's when a post office came into Trevriel. And then, of course, so much went by rail, didn't it, in those days?
I had no idea that at that stage you could send away and get a little bottle of water.
A little bottle of water, very expensive. This would be 42 shillings for an 8-week supply of water, which was a tremendous amount of money in those days, just imagine.
That is. I
Yeah,
mean, that,
it's a lot of
That
money.
is staggering.
It is.
They must really have believed in it.
Oh, they did.
Back then, 42 shillings was over a week's wages for most workers. So the mail order service was an expensive luxury for the rich. Those who took the train to the Spa could also take a dip in the special waters.
And this is the bathhouse that people used to bathe in from 1833 when it was built. And as you see,
huge bath.
it is, isn't it?
And what's this made of?
Slate. Good Welsh slate.
Yes. And what, the water just
It just used to come
tumbling off the mountain?
tumbling off the mountains into here.
I can understand that if you drink iron, that might do some
yes,
good. But bathing in it, would that do any good?
Well, they believed it would. And faith is a wonderful thing. isn't
Faith.
it? Yes.
Faith is
Yes,
everything.
It is, isn't it?
I think I'll skip the bath, but I wouldn't mind a taste of these famous waters.
Mind your head.
Dark and damp. Look at those iron
look at them.
stalactites. Fascinating. Down the hatch.
That's very metallic.
Oh, it's not so bad.
I don't mind it, you see, for some people...
No, it is metallic, but it's not,
Yes, but
it's not unpleasant.
No, it isn't, is it?
No. Oh, just like drinking steel. Today, the water still compensates for iron deficiency and is sold all over the world. As for me, I'm heading to the station, where I need to be on the ball to catch my next train. At rural stations, the trains stop only by request. Now, I've never had to do this with a train before, only with a bus or taxi, but I guess the technique is similar. That seems to have done it. Along this railway line in 1841, a devout Leicestershire businessman organised an excursion for 500 people to go from Leicester to Loughborough for a temperance fair. And then the following year, he organised a Sunday school trip to get kids out of Leicester to Derby on a day when there were races in Leicester. And then he organised trips to North Wales and Snowdonia. And in 1851, big excursions to the Great Exhibition in London. All that was made possible by the railways. And that man has become a byword for organised travel, because his name was Thomas Cook. Thomas Cook negotiated cheap train fares for his customers to go from the north of England to the Great Exhibition in the Crystal Palace, with entrance included for as little as 5 shillings. Mass travel had begun in earnest. In Bradshaw's time, the Midlands Railways also enabled the upper classes to travel to their favourite sport of fox hunting. But what did today's passengers know about the region's hunting tradition? Do you live in the Nottinghamshire area?
No, I'm about to move here.
Are you about to move here? Because there's quite a lot of hunting around the middle part of
I
England.
wasn't really aware of it, to be honest. But as a principle, I don't like it.
I feel that even though there are lots of people who depend on it in the countryside, I feel that
I find it uncomfortable, the whole kind of blooding young people on their first hunt and things like that. When I went to boarding school, people used to get the afternoon off to go fox hunting, and if I wanted to do anything, we'd never allow the afternoon off to go and do that. So.
My next stop is Barrow-upon-Sword in rural Leicestershire. In Bradshaw's time, it was at the heart of an enthusiastic fox hunting territory. Bradshaw says we're in the finest fox hunting ground in England. That's because the good quality soil is good for the scent, and he says most of the land is laid to pasture rather than being ploughed. And this, he says, is where the famous corn hounds are kennelled. For this is the property of Sir R. Sutton, Baronet. This is Corndon Hall. Many people claim that modern fox hunting was born at Corn in the late 18th century, when faster hounds were bred here. In the 19th century, the hunt's popularity grew as the railways made it easier to travel to meets. Soon, railway companies were targeting the sporting fraternity with special services. Corn ceased its pursuit of live foxes in 2005, but it's still an important local institution. Some of today's hounds are directly descended from the specimens used in Bradshaw's day. Hello, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Michael, very nice to see you.
Brad Thomas.
Hello, sir.
Great to see you. And this is the famous pack of corn hounds.
Indeed it is.
Beautiful creatures, beautiful.
Come along then.
I'm joining huntsman Peter Collins and Rad Thomas, a lifelong member of the Corn Hunt, as they exercise the hounds. So here we are on a blazing summer's day, no hunting at this time of year. So what do the hounds do at this time of year?
Well, basically this time of year we're keeping them fit. As you can see, we've got this many hounds in the kennels all day. They've got to be exercised.
And how fit do these hounds have to get?
Well, by the time it comes to the season, these hounds could run anything up to 100 miles a day.
100 miles?
And they would probably hunt 2 days a week. So that would be pretty good training for a marathon runner, wouldn't it?
It would. My Bradshaw's guide says that this is the best hunting territory in England. In fact, he quotes a columnist in a sporting paper called Nimrod. And Nimrod apparently said, of all the hunts, this is the belle. Is that still the case?
I think so, and many others do as well. And it's a history, really, of the topography of the county, which meant that the sport was faster, a little more scary, and that attracted the interested people who were prepared to come and hunt. And, of course, a lot of them came by train to enjoy that sport.
Tell me more about that. How did the railways affect hunting?
Before the railways, it really was you had to set your stall out and go for the whole season, because it took so long to get there and get all your equipment and your servants and your horses and everything else there. Now the railways have arrived, the easier routes up to Leicestershire from the swells of London, and so they could do it in a day.
How do they get their horses up here?
On specially built carriages, and their group which are equipped for the horses, and room for the grooms, and all the provender that went with it, not only to get them here, but also to get them back, of course.
The rapid expansion of the Corn boosted local businesses. Hunting lodges and gentlemen's clubs sprang up to serve the influx of wealthy visitors. Even today, the hunt looms large in the local economy.
On an average day, there's 100 horses out. All those horses have got to be fed hay, hard feed, they've got to be shod. Everyone's got to buy their riding clothes. So all the local millers, all the people that produce the food, hay, straw. It's a very, very big thing, and if that was gone, it would make a big hole in the community.
It's time to continue my journey through Bradshaw's Britain to a town which greatly benefited from both hunting and the railway, Melton Mowbray. I'm now travelling to Greenwich on London's oldest railway. Bradshaw says there are as many as 60 trains daily by this railway to and from London.
and the line runs over viaducts the whole distance through the populous districts of Bermondsey and Rotherhithe. And it's built on brick arches, 878 of them. Apparently it took 60 million bricks to build, and they were using 10,000 a day, causing a brick shortage all the way through London. Imagine how it changed the capital. Suddenly you found these railways in the sky plunge through the place where you've been used to living.
Before the railways, the Thames provided the fastest means of travel. When the Greenwich line opened in 1836, travellers were reluctant to exchange the boats for trains. But within a short time, 1,500 passengers a day were using the service. Greenwich, with its stunning park, was transformed from a leafy village outside London to one of the capital's most popular suburbs, and Bradshaw could see why.
Talking of Greenwich Park, Bradshaw says, "We cannot but hope that the park and heath may be preserved for ages to come as an oasis in the desert, when the mighty city has spread its suburbs far beyond it into the hills and dales of the surrounding country." And Bradshaw's wish has come true. The park and the heath have been preserved. But even George Bradshaw, with his great imagination about the future, cannot have anticipated the mighty bulk of the structures of Canary Wharf, which are magnificent.
In Bradshaw's time, the splendid historical buildings at Greenwich attracted tourists from across the world. Now the Naval Hospital and the Queen's House form part of a World Heritage Site, which includes the park's crowning marvel, the Royal Observatory.
Like Bradshaw's guide says, the Royal Observatory occupies the most elevated spot in Greenwich Park. For the guidance of shipping, the round globe at its summit drops precisely at 1 p.m. to give the exact Greenwich time. Dear, I'm going to need a better watch.
The Greenwich Observatory's time ball has been helping accurately to set watches and clocks since 1833.
Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, Michael.
Jonathan Betts is the Senior Curator of Horology.
The famous ball here, what is that for? What does it do?
It was necessary before you left your home port to set to local time, and that's what the time ball was for. It was to enable the ships in the docklands below to set their chronometers correctly.
So they'd be down on the ships with their telescopes looking up.
Exactly.
And measuring the exact moment at which the ball fell.
And at 1 o'clock every day they were all down there, and of course the public regarded it very much as a time service for them.
With the dawn of the railway age, Greenwich assumed additional importance. Until then, time was set locally, so Bristol was 14 minutes behind London time and Plymouth 20 minutes. That caused havoc for train timetables.
Is it really the case that the railways were the main force driving towards having standardised time in this country?
Principally it was, yes. The railways and the electric telegraph went kind of hand in hand, and it was only with the introduction of the railways and the electric telegraph that it was realised we needed one time for the nation. If you wanted to catch a train and you had your watch set to your local time and they had the train timetables on London time, you really needed to know that, otherwise you'd miss your train.
Then eventually Greenwich gets into the business of telegraphing the time to towns and cities all over Britain.
Yes, electric clocks had been created in the 1840s, and we created here something called an electric master and slave system, in which the master clock sent out electrical time signals using the electric telegraph along the railway lines to virtually anywhere in the country to provide Greenwich time.
Towns and villages outside London instantly received the Greenwich time, which would be displayed in public places using signal devices. Jonathan has several Victorian examples.
Your workshop is a busy-looking place.
Yep, there's plenty going on here. I've actually got 2 time signals out for you to see. From the 1870s, this type of time signal was being used by subscribers all over the country. to provide a Greenwich time service for their customers. In front of jewellers' shops like Hancock's here, for example, in Bond Street, you'd find a big group of people all standing there with their pocket watches waiting to set the time. And as the moment approached, there'd be mounting excitement.
And this one is more like your ball here at Greenwich.
Very much so. This is a little miniature version of the time ball. There were many of these made. First of all, we have to this would happen about 5 minutes before 1 o'clock. The person receiving the time signal would arrange for the ball to be raised to the top of the mast in time, of course, for the Greenwich time signal to go through, and then with everybody standing outside waiting with their watches, at the moment of the signal, the ball would drop, and there you have it. Isn't that fun?
It is. That's absolutely wonderful. Do you know, I've been thinking about railway time since I started making these journeys, but it's really brought it home to me today. That really is fascinating.
That's
this
great
is
stuff.
how it worked.
Precision timekeeping.
The railways created the need for standardised time in Britain and in other countries too. That gave rise to time zones. Since 1884, time around the globe has been set by reference to Greenwich.
Writing of Tunbridge Wells, Bradshaw says, "A new cricket ground has been made where many great matches are held." That was written in the 1860s, and I last followed cricket in the 1960s, but the ground to which Bradshaw refers is the higher ground. This is it. In the 19th century, cricket was central to the life of Tunbridge Wells. I'm meeting cricket historian Glenys Williams to find out why. Hello, Glenys.
Hello.
Good match so far?
Yep, looks good.
Tunbridge Wells is really a kind of centre for cricket, isn't it, historically speaking?
Very much so. Kent was the cradle of the game. It was in Kent and Hampshire, Sussex, where the game originated, we believe, way back in the 12th, 13th century. And because of all the willow being grown here, it was the perfect place for cricket bat making. And so certainly from the 17th, 18th century onwards, we see the growth of the game here, and also we get the development of the various cricket bat making firms and ball making firms in this area as well.
Cricket balls have been made locally since the 1760s. They were hand-stitched by workers at home. Then in the 1840s, Dukes opened a factory alongside the railway tracks. Trains began carrying cricket balls and bats to the rest of the country, and they also helped to transform the game.
The All England 11 that travelled in 1849 travelled by stagecoach. By 1852 they were using the rail network, and if you look at a map of the expansion of the rail network around England and Scotland, cricket follows those lines. The All England 11s were particularly popular in some of the industrial cities up north, Sheffield, Manchester. They played as far south as St Ives, and they went as far north as Scotland.
So trains enable players to get to more distant places. Do the railways also popularise the sport?
Yes, they do. With the rise of the mass media in the 1840s to 1860s, newspapers are travelling on trains, match reports are being sent via the Telegraph, which also goes via the rail network. And people sitting in their homes reading these newspapers were able to read about the exploits of players such as W.G. Grace. And so when they heard that he was coming to play, there was for the first time a sense of anticipation.
By the mid-1800s, tens of thousands of Victorians would travel across the country to watch a fixture. Cricket's increasing popularity with the masses would forever change the way it was played.
You see, I think of cricket in its heyday as being a game for aristocrats and the gifted amateur.
What we see in the 1860s are two different games, if you like. You have the professionals who are earning their living by playing games around the country in front of big crowds, popularising the game. At the same time, you have the aristocracy who have almost withdrawn back to their own county estates. Once the game retreated, if you like, into the county scene, it was much more refined. And I think if you really wanted to get a feel of one of those matches from the 1860s, you'd really have to go to India today. to see these massive grounds where people just crowd in and are also completely passionate about the game.
Having travelled around Kent, I feel like one of those Victorian urban tourists myself, because I've always lived in the metropolis. Of course, I have visited Kent, but I've never given it a proper tour. And I've found that it's not only a county of great natural beauty, but of course fundamentally important to British history.
Weston Hanger is just my gateway to a remarkable English ecology, a windswept landscape of salt flats and shingle, Romney Marsh. Since the 11th century, settlers have attempted to tame this wild terrain.
This spectacular panorama is Romney Marsh, and Bradshaw says that it extends along the coast for 20 miles, including about 60,000 acres, which within the last few years have been successfully drained and cultivated. In fact, the land and sea have battled over this terrain for hundreds of years, but now with the provision of a sea wall and with constant drainage, the marsh is stable. Reputedly a fearsome climate.
In the 1700s, the marsh was shared between smugglers and malaria-carrying mosquitoes. Life expectancy was a mere 35 years. But the Victorians finally built seawalls strong enough to keep the waters at bay. The marsh may never have welcomed human life, but a more hardy animal has thrived here, Romney Marsh sheep. Paul Bolden's family has been rearing them since the 1880s.
Paul.
Good morning.
What a fantastic vista over the marsh, isn't it?
It is, it is.
It looks today like quite a gentle place, but it has a bit of a reputation, doesn't it, for being, I don't know, a bit spooky?
It has, yeah, most definitely. The mist comes in very quickly, just sort of a run across the field. It looks quite eerie. The superstitious type would think it's full of spirits.
I mean, this leads down to the sea here, and it's completely flat. Would I be right in thinking it's all been reclaimed at one time?
Yes, yeah, it's predominantly, well, everything you can see here has been reclaimed over past centuries and so on.
And what sort of a soil has that given us down there?
Well, it's a sort of rich alluvial silt, really.
Pretty fertile?
Yes, yeah, very fertile. Hence the amount of crops down there now, not so much grass.
Have you any idea how long the Romney Marsh sheep has been here?
Been on the marsh for over 1,000 years, so I believe the Romans probably brought them in initially. As time's gone on, they've evolved, really, to what they are today.
Good for wool and for meat?
Yes, a dual-purpose breed.
Being resistant to disease and able to feed on the boggy pasture, these sheep are well adapted to the damp, harsh conditions. Their meat is particularly sought after, as it picks up a salty flavour from the marsh. The railway arrived at Smeeth in 1852. By the 1890s, Paul's family was using it on a weekly basis.
It was quite an important route, well, for my family. It was the closest station from where they lived, and then they were living on the edge of the marsh, and from there onto the marsh.
Paul preserves a Victorian farming diary kept by his great-grandfather.
It's just sort of day-to-day jobs in here, what they were doing on the farm, but there's some references which are very apt to the railway station nearby. This one here, January 14th, 1895, 100 trusses straw to Smeeth Station for Mr. Hook. There's one here, January 31st, 1894, 1 horse to Smeeth Station for coals.
I guess it really shows that, I mean, obviously sheep farming has been going on here quite a while, but the farmers were adapting pretty well to using the railway to keep themselves supplied.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it was cut a lot of miles, I suspect. Yeah.
Trains could carry sheep to markets all over the country. By the second half of the 19th century, the breed had become so popular that it was exported to most of the world's continents. Today, 70% of New Zealand sheep are descended from Romney Marsh specimens.
What are their main physical attributes?
A strong-bodied sheep, strong on the legs, got good sound feet. That's one of the main characteristics coming off the Romney Marsh, because it's traditionally wet landscape, so they've got good tolerance to foot rot. We're living in wet mud, really.
Your family's been farming sheep here for a long time. Would your great-great-grandfather recognise these sheep, do you think?
Yes, yeah, very much so. They've probably got a bit less wool on their head. They've been more woolly 140 years ago or so.
In Bradshaw's day, Romney Marsh had an unusual system of freelance shepherds called lookers. They lived out on the marsh in tiny brick huts for weeks at a time, keeping a close eye on the flock. These days, Paul checks on the sheep himself.
Catch a good one, one that's...
I recommend you catch a small one.
If I can get near it. They're going to be a bit lively.
Oh, Lord. So, first catch yourself a sheep.
Yes, yep.
Obviously, you're rather good at catching sheep. This would be because you would get the sheep like this if you were going to shear.
Yeah, something like this.
And you shear a sheep. Where's that wool destined for?
Well, all our wool goes through the British Wool Marketing Board. It goes into local wool growers, which is in Ashford, and then it's graded there, and it's sold on the wool exchange at Bradford.
But Romney Marsh wool still pretty highly regarded?
Yeah, for its versatility, really.
Although the historic exchange is no longer used for trading, the wool is still regularly auctioned in Bradford. And just as in Bradshaw's day, it's mainly used in carpets and clothes. This sheep is destined for quite a nice life. Once a year it's got to put up with the indignity of being sheared.
Yes.
Got to produce a fair number of lambs, but that's it. That's not too bad, is it?
Well, no, that's right. It's just got to, rear... Well, we'd like to try and rear 1.5 lambs from the sheep, although it's... on average, it's 1.3.
Per year?
Per year.
Are you ready to have 1.3 lambs? Yeah, I think she's all set.
Yeah, good.
This is Preswick town, which scarcely gets a mention in Bradshaw's because it was just a tiny village on the edge of Troon. But when the rail link arrived here, that was the moment when the middle classes from Glasgow could build their magnificent villas here to take advantage of the sea views and the vista over towards the Isle of Arran. And with the railway coming here in 1840, it was just 11 years later that they put in the golf course. And the best view of the golf course is from the station. When my guidebook was published, Preswick was poised to become one of Scotland's most important golf courses. As Club Secretary Ian Bunch explains, what a fantastic golf course.
Welcome to Preswick.
Where we're standing now, Preswick, this is actually the home of open golf in Scotland, is that right?
The home of the first Open Championship was held here in 1860. Only 8 people took part in that Open. And it was Tom Morris, it was his concept with the Earl of Eglinton and J.O. Fairley, and they sent invitations out to the leading clubs for them to put forward players to play in this open event.
And I suppose then the railways did make it possible for it to become a big spectator event.
Oh yes, I mean the last Open that we held here was 1925, and there were something like 20,000 people came on the railway from Glasgow.
How fantastic. I mean, forgive me, it must have been quite difficult to control 20,000 people in this size of course.
That's why we no longer have the Open Championship, because the crowd control, there was none. Everybody was on the fairways in those days. They just followed the matches, and you have all these people bottlenecking. That was the last Open in 1925 that we actually had.
Golf originated in 15th century Scotland, but in the railway age it spread rapidly. By the 1900s, there were more than 1,300 courses in Britain. Have the railways played quite an important part in the history of golf?
Oh, very important. If you think of a links course, it's beside a railway station. It was more holidays, industrial evolution. People had more, the working week came down to 55 hours, so they had more time. So they were actually able to play golf.
Of course, in those days, you didn't have a car, you didn't have a boot to sling your golf clubs in. You wanted to take them on the train.
Absolutely. It was horse and cart or a train.
Railway companies offered cheap tickets and deals for golfers. And here, railway staff made special arrangements so players didn't miss their train.
In days gone by, the station master used to have a bell which he would ring, in the bar to advise that the train was going to arrive within 5 minutes. So we had a wonderful relationship with the railways in days gone by.
Just time to drink up and go.
Absolutely.
In Preswick, the memory of the railway's heyday is cherished.
Oh, I've got a good story about railways and golf. Well, the lady's playing at Preswick long ago in the 20s of steam trains, and the train came in to the station as she drove, and she sliced it over the wall out of bounds, hit the train, came back on the course, And as she walked up, the driver leaned out and said, that was lucky. Are you playing tomorrow? And she said, yes, I've got a tea time at 1 o'clock. He said, I'll try and be here.
Have the same luck twice.
Golf is something I'm leaving for later life, so I'd best just head off in search of tonight's hotel. I'm travelling towards Rannoch Moor, 1,000 feet above sea level, and as the route steadily climbs, I'm anticipating breathtaking scenery. Bradshaw says that the landscape is mountainous throughout, on rocks of mica slate and granite covered with heath. Glens of much picturesque beauty are met with. This wilderness is truly beautiful, but it posed innumerable difficulties for the railway's builders, not least here, where the line diverts around the horseshoe curve. It snakes along the contour, spanning the glens on spectacular viaducts. Yet the greatest test for the Victorian engineers lay ahead: how to cross the soggy expanse of Rannoch Moor.
Well, Rannoch Moor really is a forbidding, wind-blown, desolate sort of place. And the interesting thing is that the railway station is right in the heart of it. And actually Rannoch is much more accessible by rail than it is by road. And it just makes you wonder what they must have gone through to build a railway line across this rock and this peat bog.
Despite being one of the bleakest spots in Britain, railway mania demanded that the engineers of the West Highland line find a means to traverse it. Doug Carmichael knows the story.
Hi, Doug.
Hello, Michael. Pleased to meet you. Welcome to the Moor of Rannoch, the great tableland of Scotland.
It's an amazing moor, and I imagine it must have been hellish to build a railway across it.
It certainly was when Thomas Telford, the road builder, decided he might be able to get a road to Fort William via the moor, but he gave up. Too hard.
Rannoch Moor is a 50 square mile plateau of granite topped with peat bogs up to 20 feet deep. In 1889, a small party of men was sent to inspect the route across this hostile environment.
There were 7 gentlemen set out quite far north of here to walk 40 miles in January. And they were all just businessmen in normal business attire, no big boots, anything like that. They found that the weather was against them all the way. The darkness came down. They were actually lighting matches in the middle of a moor to see where they were going. They were following into the bogs continually, and things weren't very good.
Their near-death experience on the moor didn't discourage the engineers. They persevered and devised a technique to master the bog.
Part of the railway you see here, north of the station, has been floated on brushwood and turf. The bogs on the moor sucked everything up that the engineers laid, but they kept putting more and more brushwood, more and more turf, and finally hundreds of wagon loads of ash from the industrial south were brought up, laid on top, and finally they had a track bed across the moor.
But it must have been terrible when the navvies came to build the line for them.
Yes, indeed. 5,000 navvies were employed between Craigendoran and Fort William, and they had to go through exceedingly hard rock, as you'd expect in the Scottish Highlands, and of course didn't have the equipment at the end of the 19th century as we expect now, as we accept now indeed. And there was a lot of blasting. There was some loss of life actually because of blasting.
What has been the importance of this railway historically in the more than 100 years that it's now existed?
The importance of it was that it took a railway into a land which had never seen civilization, let alone a railway. There were no roads, there were hardly any tracks. People from the Highlands could never get down to the central belt in Scotland for any reason. When the railway came, all of a sudden they found that they could come out of Fort William, go down to Glasgow, albeit on quite a long trip. But of course to them it was luxury, sitting in a train as opposed to a horse and cart or walking.
Our ideas of luxury may have moved on since then, but we recognise it when we see it, and occasionally we see it in the Highlands.
So here on the bridge at Rannoch, with literally not another human being in sight, I can hear the sound of a locomotive powering up the slope towards the station. And here comes a very special train, the Royal Scotsman. Car after car of luxury and great food and comfy beds.
The Royal Scotsman was launched in 1990 to recreate the elegant travel of the Edwardian era. It attracts guests from around the globe. And while it makes a brief stop at Rannoch Moor, I'm gate crashing pre-dinner cocktails.
May I join you just for a moment?
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
are you enjoying your trip on this luxurious train?
Very much so.
And what about you? Are you a railway enthusiast?
This is my first time. I spent a day on the British Pullman and loved it, and then every time Mum sees a piece of tartan or a bagpipe, she bursts into tears. So basically we decided to come and do Scotland, and this was the best way to do it. So we're doing the whole week. We sort of do one side and then we go back and then reload and then do the other.
And would that be a glass of champagne in your hand?
Yes, that's right. Whenever you want one, you just sort of put your finger up. They look after you very well here.
As the party continues, I feel like the poor relation peering in at a family feast. They've left me behind.
No exclusive cabin on board for me tonight. But even in this lonely spot, I found somewhere warm and cosy to lay my head. A hotel that was originally built to house men labouring to construct the railway.
Well, I've come, about 50 metres from the railway station, and it seems that almost the only thing in Rannoch other than the station is this charming hotel. And I'm really excited by the idea of staying somewhere inaccessible, somewhere that's really difficult to reach except by train. So this is where I'm staying.
My first stop is Oban, a town that grew up on the back of a thriving whisky trade.
Isn't it grand that this stuff's made in Scotland? Aye, but that's gay true.
Before the railways arrived, this was an isolated place, difficult to reach except by boat. It was the ideal location to make whisky.
Hi Brendan, good morning.
I'm meeting distillery manager Brendan McCarran.
I noticed that distilleries in Scotland are quite often spread around in quite remote places. What's the historic reason for that?
Yeah, the distilleries are spread out remotely. There was various reasons of water and raw materials, but the main one was to avoid paying tax.
To avoid paying tax?
Yeah, started off as an illicit industry. Tax costs you money, so if you make it where no one sees you, then you don't pay the tax.
Here at Oban, you've been established a couple of hundred years at least.
Yeah, we established in 1794, so we were one of the very first distilleries to become legal.
As business grew, the distillery owners invested in Oban, turning it into a busy town. When the railways arrived in 1880, trains linked with steamships to the Inner Hebrides, and Oban became a major tourist hub. The whisky trade received another boost.
All our raw materials came in by train over different periods in different amounts. But I suppose the really huge one that came in for us was people. People flocked to Oban after the railway opened, and that's what gets people understanding your whisky, knowing how good your whisky is, and that's what sells it. It was massive, actually.
In the 1880s, Oban whisky was in such demand that the distillery's owner, J. Walter Higgin, rebuilt the plant, carefully preserving the old stills that guaranteed quality.
This is from pretty much the exact time of the railways arriving in Oban, and you can tell that because of the signature. That's J. Walter Higgin.
J. Walter Higgin's signature,
yeah.
And a lovely engraving of the harbour at Oban. And actually I can see the railway here, can't I? Here's the station, here's a train puffing along.
Yeah, that'd be probably one of the first pictures of the railway.
That's wonderful. And obviously you don't drink that.
No, definitely not. It's far too old. The Oban whisky that we make in the main is matured for 14 years, so it's a long time. And it's always matured in an ex-American bourbon cask. So we buy them off the bourbon makers and we use their old casks to make our whisky.
Bourbon used to be imported from America through Oban, and canny Scottish distillers would reuse the empty casks. They discovered that the barrels enhanced the whisky's flavour.
Ooh, the fumes, Brendan.
Yeah, this hasn't been reduced with water, so this is at about 58% alcohol.
Right, that's why it's knocking me out.
It's got a real
It's
kick.
really. So you wouldn't really want to be tasting this, would you?
You can taste it at that strength. You just wouldn't want to,
You wouldn't want to go out for the night on it.
You wouldn't want to go for the night on it, and you want to know that it's cask strength before you try and drink it. But it's definitely worth trying at that strength.
Yeah. Very smoky, I think, very smoky. Orangey.
It's got a slight smokiness to it, and it has got oranges in it also. Some people pick up salt, and also, because it's been in a cask, in the 14 you'll pick up more as a kind of sweetness, a honeyness, which is influenced by the cask.
Well, I think I've just not drunk enough yet. Let me see if I can find the honey and the salt.
Help yourself.
Silly old me. There they are. Honey and salt. I just needed the second sample.
Excellent.
A man knows his limits, and I must leave to investigate another of Oban's 19th century industries.